best.
Yeah.
I'll just share it with Tom.
Even if he can see it. Yeah. At least
I've got that. I've got that iPad there, so it's all duct tape. It's a bit MacGyver.
Yeah, it's all right.
Okay. We're just going to have to hope for the best. That's it. That's my best offer, I think.
If this turns into a goat rodeo, don't blame me. I did my best.
We're just so grateful. This was just the dude. Wait up. You're doing it.
Still people turning up, I see.
Tom says it's working.
Can you hear anything?
Well, he says it's working. Oh, he says I refreshed and it's working. Or it wasn't until Rob did something. Actually, I think it was just watching the recording. It's working. So, I don't know. They might have come before I changed it again. Who knows? It's just going with that.
So have you flagged the mixer?
Sorry?
You flagged the mixer?
Oh, it wasn't working.
Okay.
At least I don't think it was. But then, so I had to switch back to the internal mic, which will be garbage. Hot garbage.
So plug it back in?
We can try, but you've got to switch the device. Windows? Kay said there was something, I mean, I can try. So... Go away. Ah, no, not that. Okay. Yeah, that's our audio level there.
Well, he hasn't said anything. Let's just go with.
Yeah, see that green dot there. So when if that goes red, then we've got issues. But...
See if it's still working.
Okay, good. Hi, Tom.
Thanks, Tom. Okay.
I'm just going to turn it up a bit. If it starts distorting, text your mother.
Too late.
Yeah, we're going to have to. I just noticed the icon was blinking. Take it to the guy. What's going on? He'll need that.
But you told me it was over on that.
No, it hasn't run out yet. Very low.
We have to hurry up and make a start before the batteries run out. But battery, I've got a loud voice, and normally my wife says I never really need to be amped, so we'll make a start. Good afternoon and welcome to St Francis Community Church. I knew it as the cooperating parish of Hillcrest, but many of us gathered here 2.5 years ago for Bertrand Young's funeral. And now we gather again at this, the Youngs' spiritual home, to honour and farewell Anne. And isn't that a beautiful photograph of her on the PowerPoint and on the front of the order of service? She was a beautiful person inside and out. And this is who we come to honour today. So on behalf of Anne's family, Jenny and Ian and Ash and Helen, Graham and Kay, and Anna and Rob and Tom and Kat, Francie, and Rob and James and Antonio. I thank you for coming and supporting them at this time. For it is a sad time, because it is the end of an era. Now both their parents and the young grandparents have gone. I'm grateful to the Reverend Tony Westcott, the resident vicar of St. Francis here, for allowing me to again officiate today. So my name is Lindsay Cumberbatch. I'm a recently retired Methodist minister, and my family and I attended this church along with Graham and Kay and their family and others when we returned to Hamilton in 1989. And I knew Kay a little bit at the university in my role as ecumenical chaplain. Graham and I and Lindley were in the choir and music group here together with John Parker, our organist. Thank you, John. And Graham and I played in a band together called MSG, that our wives rather unkindly referred to as mildly senile gents. Mostly senile gents. And of course, Bertrand and Anne and Jenny for a time were regular attenders here. And I'll talk more about that in a while. So friends, we have come from the four winds, Ngā Hoewha, from the east and the west, the north and the south, with our many and various associations with Anne and her families, to pay our respects, to honour her and to say our farewells to a loved and respected mum, mum-in-law, grandma, auntie, neighbour, colleague, friend and companion along life's journey. We're conscious of those who can't be here with us this afternoon, well, not physically, but hopefully by the wonders of technology. Tom in Melbourne and James in New York, grandsons, and perhaps others are with us, well, not just in spirit, but are actually, the service is being live streamed. So kia ora to you, wherever you are in the world out there. The death of a loved one shakes us and disturbs us. We're uncomfortably reminded again of the fragility of human life, and that we too will eventually die. One of the few certainties along with taxes. There's a saying that some people come into our lives and quickly go, and others stay and leave footprints in our hearts. Anne has certainly left an indelible mark on her family and on many, many friends. So despite the sadness of her passing, I believe, and sitting with the family the other day and again yesterday, I think there are many things we can celebrate. That for Anne there is no more pain and distress. She is at peace. We can celebrate her rich and full life, full of service, full of interest, and full of interests. We can celebrate her love of her family and her friends, and we celebrate her faith that sustained her through difficult and challenging times, and our relationships, our values, and our beliefs that give us the living strength of spirit at a time such as this, when we're again confronted with the reality of death and the mystery of life. And so we gather, people of faith, people of different faiths, people of no particular faith, but all bound by mutual connections to Anne Young, or a member or members of her family, with a desire to honour her living and dying, to farewell her, and to offer comfort and support to her family. So we're going to stand and we're going to sing the hymn, Now Thank We All Our God. The German hymn. The Rudyard Kipling popularized the Spanish saying that said God could not be everywhere, and so he made monks. And this hymn talks about who from our mother's arms has blessed us on our way with countless gifts of love, and still is ours today. Let's stand and sing. Every hymn and song has a story behind it, and I was interested. I've sung that hymn a lot over the years, and I only just this morning read something about it. Martin Rinckart was a Lutheran, German Lutheran minister in the 17th century, at the time of during the 30 Years' War. And so the story goes, at one point, he was the only pastor left in the town of Elsenburg in Saxony. And they were living through a severe plague. And he was conducting up to 50 funerals a day. I thought, well, when he talks about unblessed peace to cheer us, it sounded like he and his congregation needed lots cheering. Now, Francie is going to read to us from the Lovers passages from 1 Corinthians 13. She and Jenny went to St. Cuthbert's School in Auckland. St. Cuthbert's was originally called the Auckland Presbyterian College for Ladies. And its motto is, "By love serve." And so this is a very appropriate reading to listen to the wisdom from the Apostle Paul. Yes, thank you, Francis. Yeah, I think,
First off, I want to say how much, speaking from my words, how much I loved her and how she always stood by me and was always supportive of me. Even when, as a teenager, I went off the rails, she would not let me go. And I am eternally grateful to her for holding me within the family. So this is, I can't remember which Bible I got this off, but it's not the King James Version. And it starts thus. I now will show you the most excellent way. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and surrender my body to the flames, but have not love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it is not rude, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they will cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. And where there is knowledge, it will pass away. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. And I want to commend my mother for her love. Thank you.
Thanks, Francie. Would have thought Paul knew him. So now we're going to move into a time of spoken tributes. Then we'll have some photo tributes to Anne's life. But you might like to be thinking, if you have a special memory that you would like to share briefly. So I'll begin by painting the big picture, and then I'm hoping some members of the family will come and share their memories and make personal tributes, and then we might just have a few others come and share if you are of a mind to do that. So Anne's story begins on the 1st of March 1927, when she was born at home in Whitstead Street in Wanganui, the youngest of Harold and Ella Robertson's 3 daughters. Sadly, her sisters Joan and Margaret have predeceased her, but I understand that some of their families are here today to honour their auntie Anne. So thank you. To the names Elizabeth Anne for their new child, but when she was born, Father determined that Elizabeth was too long a name for such a little baby. So she was known as Anne, and that's Anne without the E. So it was nice and short to match her stature at the time. Anne seemingly required Karatani care initially, but on one visit, Dr. her father, didn't like the drag she was dressed in and took her home. Harold's plans to train as a physician required that he and the family relocate to England for about 18 months. But preschooler Anne was left at home in the care of her maternal grandmother Kitty in Napier. And so young Anne was standing on the front porch of her grandparents' house on the 3rd of February 1931, when the earth heaved upwards and swayed, and then there was an eerie silence, and the earth convulsed again. And an auntie ran and rescued young Anne just as the chimney came down. Anne had survived the 1931 Napier, or probably more properly Hawke's Bay earthquake that killed over 250 people. Her parents and sisters journeyed to New Zealand, and the family was reunited in Wanganui. The girls went to the local schools and enjoyed a range of activities and attended Girl Guides, which instilled in her that be prepared and can-do attitude. And it also gave her a love of fires. Not that she was a pyromaniac, she just enjoyed and appreciated fires. And they had a few fires, didn't you, over the years. The family talked the other day of her falling off a horse and breaking her left arm, and how never reset properly, and so she was required to use and write her right arm. It seems Anne wanted to be a lab technician, but father persuaded her to do home science at Otago University. After all, cousin Malcolm Robertson was down there studying medicine. Well, he was staying at Knox College along with Bertram Young, and yes, you can guess the rest. They both got involved in the student Christian SCM, amongst other things. They had a shared love of music. Anne played the piano, and Bertram. They were engaged for 3 years and then married in Wanganui on the 15th of December 1951, literally just days after Bertram had graduated. They moved to Wellington so that he could do his residency as a house surgeon at Wellington Hospital, and Anne worked for the New Zealand Standards Institute. They shared a house in Kilburnie with an older couple, the Thomases. It was whilst in Wellington that Jenny was born. Bertram made the decision to work in practice, and so the family of 3 moved to Te Atatu in Auckland. Bertram was an assistant GP out west in Henderson, and that's where Graham was born. You're a Westie, mate. Absolutely. The next year, 1955, the family moved to Hamilton, to 189 Cambridge Road, where Bertram became GP in the village of Hillcrest, on the south end fringe of a growing city. It was here that Francie was born in 1956 and enrolled in 61. The surgery was at the front of the house, and Jenny and Francie and Graham and Kay the other day, they talked of patients walking down the hall to use the toilet. The busy practice and its demands certainly impacted all of their family life. Bertram was one of those old-fashioned GPs that had house calls, often in the middle of the night. Anne was the practice nurse and did the books for the business. And interestingly, she did some accounting papers at Waikato Polytech to assist it in that task. From that connection with Waikato Polytechnic, now Wintech, Anne later taught part-time, firstly food science to trainee chefs, and later did adult literacy tutoring under Literacy Aotearoa. Anne and Bertram were initially members of St. Peter's Cathedral in town, where Francie was christened, but then they moved to connect with the Anglican Church in Lawrenceville Road, down the road, and then in '59 moved with the rest of the congregation to this site. And the church was initially the church hall where we have an afternoon tea. Bertram was a foundation church warden long before this building was. He helped our roster and with doing embroidery and other things. The Young family, as I said, retained a connection, active involvement and connection with this parish for nearly 60 years. In the early 1960s, Anne cashed up her family benefit, as you could do in those days, which allowed the Youngs to buy a leasehold section in Athenry near Waihi Beach. They had early stayed there next door but one with Archdeacon John Hogg and his family in their modest batch. And this had inspired Anne and Bertram with the idea of having a place at the beach to which they could retreat from the city and the demands of general practice and everything else. As I mentioned at Bertram's funeral, committee man, at one stage he was on 26 different committees or groups, no less. A story about apparently he suggested to it he might train as a marriage guidance counsellor, and Anne threatened to kill him. But she was pretty busy herself. She was busy raising the children, largely as one of the children, we probably should remain anonymous, said, largely as a sole parent, supporting the 4 children's many and various activities, and then her own craft work, making clothes, tatting and stitching. In 1976, they built a new Lockwood home on the 1 property beside the old house. There was a period where Anne then took turns at looking after her mother's health deteriorating. But there was also time for travelling, a house swap for months with the Docton's family in Canada in 1980, and then later a memorable trip through Eastern Europe and the Baltic States, and against other trips. When Bertram finally retired around the year 2000, he had to be around 73, there was time for more activities and interests, both shared and separately. Of course, their greatest shared interest was the love of their grandchildren, Anna, Tom, and Ian, and Helen, James, and Antonio. Reading with them, playing games with them as young children, family picnics at Athenry later, and for Ian and Helen, Grandma and Granddad prepare and serve up meals when Jenny had late lectures that she was given at the university. And hopefully you might hear some of that from one or more of them later. No pressure. Bertram and Anne both loved playing bridge. They sang in the Hamilton Chorale. They tutored, as I said, for literacy Aotearoa. They attended faith meetings, a faith exploratory group, and they were active in the University of the Third Age. Anne indulged her interest in genealogy, writing 2 books. Firstly, Young Hussey, about her mother-in-law, Leslie Young, née Hussey, Bertram's mother, and then a book entitled The Yules, about the ship, the Bengal Merchant, and the story of her mother's family immigrating from Scotland. Anne enjoyed the fellowship and stimulation of a U3A writing group. In around 2000, they bought a smaller house in Brennan Place near Jenny, but rented it out to students for a number of years. And then a few years later, a fire took out some of the old house. And the story I heard was that it was started by a disgruntled patient. I'd love to know more about that. Very interesting. But anyway, it wasn't worth more restoring, apparently, and and so they stayed on in the Lockwood, but then in around 2008 moved into their own rented place properly, because they were finding the stairs in the two-storey Lockwood a challenge. So sadly, over time, like many, their health began to deteriorate. Carers were able to help them stay in their own home place and retain a degree of independence till the end of 2017, into adjacent rooms at Wilson Carlisle. Now, Selwood Wilson Carlisle, the Anglican Aged Care Facility Street in Hamilton East. And it was there that Anne died last Thursday, aged 93, 2.5 after her beloved Gertrude. It is this loving and loved mother and grandmother we honour today. Now, Rob, you're going to kick off the family tributes. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Rob, I'm the youngest of the four of us. And I've just got to read a few notes to make a few comments. I should start just by thanking Jenny, Graham and Francie for a lot of the organisation that's gone into the funeral service today. And it's great help to have them here in Hamilton to be able to organise it. And thank you, Lindsay, for that tribute to Mum. So, Mum's character, a lot of you knew her well. Some of you knew her a lot longer than I did even. But my abiding memories from Mum, it was someone who's very loving and nurturing, supportive, forgiving, understanding. She was very involved in all of us, and she was a very good listener, and she was well described as a gracious lady. So gracious, meaning courteous and kind, being pleasant and easy to smile. But Mum was also very wise, and she was a very good calming influence, I think. And as James, my son, described this morning, her wise sense of humour. So Mum had a lot of these characteristics, but for me, she was always around, always part of our family life. She was a great facilitator and was always seemingly there when things were going on. I'm sure in the background did a lot of organisational things and really helped everything go as planned. As Liz has described, Anthony was really a master stroke on Mum's part in extracting Dad from his GP practice and having him locked away in this lovely little seaside place where for many, many decades and still today, it is really the heart of our family. So, born in the early 60s, it was a very basic fibre shared single room, all of us being in at one end, well, all of us in the four of the kids and Mum and Dad and some other kind of curtained off area. And then eventually it grew, and now it's kind of a mirage of fibre-like matches. And those of you who've been there will agree there must be, I don't know, 4 buildings on there, all still made out of fibre-line and very rustic. And I was at Athenry just 2 weekends ago, again in Grapefruit, and yeah, it hasn't changed. Yes, true. It's a couple of caravans that will never see the road again. In desperate need of attention. Anyway, so Athenry was really great because it was very good for us as kids played together, and then subsequently our kids or the grandchildren, and it was a place we came together. And we developed a passion for the sea, a passion for sailing, and Mum would even be out there sailing with Dad. And we had to kind of line up and take our turn. Needless to say, mine was the last. However, it did instill in us. I really love the area, and I think that decision and her foresight is really something very special that we've all enjoyed. I was really interested to hear comments about the pyromaniac side of my mother. I didn't know And just by way of an example of forgiveness, I'll just tell you one anecdote. When I was quite young, and my best friend, neighbour Paul, and I started to firewalk. And so we got the dad's ladder out and placed it on 2 chairs and got some newspaper and put it underneath the. And beside the newspaper, we put a couple of cardboard boxes to keep the wind off. And so we lit this and waited for the flames to die down enough for us to walk across the ladder. It's about so high off the ground. Well, the cardboard boxes went up as well. And so the flames were now about 8 feet above the ladder. And this was unfortunately very close to the house. And Mum obviously smelled the smoke, came rushing out. And in the presence of mind, found the garden hose and extinguished the fire very rapidly. I don't remember being significantly admonished for that. I think part of her very forgiving nature and possibly a reflection that some of that pyromania had rubbed off on me. Mum was also great for food and cooking. When I say that, she would boil both the goodness and the colour out of most vegetables. That said, she was a specialist at pudding. And so we would dutifully sit around the table, 6 of us, and at the end of a lovely roast, usually lamb, but sometimes chicken, we'd have delivered to us these beautiful little dessert bowls, each with our own chocolate pudding or lemon souffle. And so food and dinners were always much appreciated. Mum was also a great role as the youngest in the family. My older brother and sisters had nigh on left home. I was in my early teens, and I was engaging with the prospect of trying to do well at school. And Mum at that time was teaching at Waikato Tech, and she was preparing lectures and overheads, and I could see the effort that she went into and the passion she had for her role teaching hygiene and nutrition. But she was incredibly supportive to me. I would write out mock exams, and she would beautifully sit there and question me late into the evening while I tried to get my answers correct. So she really was a great support, and was, I think, just a quietly ambitious for us all, and incredibly supportive. It was really with great sadness that Mum's dementia became a large part of her life, and with that, the loss of her memory, and ultimate loss of our ability to communicate with her, and a lot of her personality, those really enriched and dry humour, sort of drifted off. And so it was kind of a tough last few years for us all, and we'll always remember the good times. So thank you. Love you, Mum.
Hi, I'm Helen. I'm Jenny's youngest of college. Almost everyone. Thank you for coming to celebrate the life of my wonderful grandma. I just want to pay tribute to the very special part that she has played, especially in my brother Ian's life. That of a grandparent, but also an additional parent, really, with our father living in Wellington. We spent most weekends, a lot of sick days off school with grandma and granddad in some capacity, and I've long referred to her as my second mum. I was picked up most days after school in her various really small cars and carted off to ballet, getting changed on the way, and for many years and broke notes in my syllabus. On days spent at our house at 189, we played piano together. We baked that chocolate cake topped with walnuts from the tree down the back that were like housed in the cardboard boxes for like 6 months. Fed the birds, and on special days we got to go and clip the dahlias from the flower bed before the ladies came for writing groups or stitching on a bridge or something. Most of my favourite childhood memories involve my grandma in some way, and I'm really thankful to have been nearby for the last few years of life, especially when I was living at home when I could help mum and help, spend time with them. I loved the days that our whole family would be there at 189 and we'd all have a swim in the pool and steal plums off the neighbour's tree until we got sick from eating so many. Their house was always a place for us to get together, and we're so lucky to have Anne Marie where they created a place for us to make the time to be together. She was supportive, definitely like to tell you her way of doing things, and someone else keep taking my fire reference, but like lighting fires, she was the only one that was allowed to build that brazier. Absolutely, like you kind of get your fingers in there, but it wasn't happening. She always had a cheeky little twinkle in her eye up until the end, and she seriously loved her family. I loved and love her so much, and I miss her very much. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to share a memory?
I am Sister Raven. I lived across the road from the Youngs. My older sisters used to babysit the old family, and I used to babysit Robert. That was many years ago. And Anne was in the at Winty. I was one of her pupils. And I've done some of the course up in Auckland, so I was able to finish it off in Hamilton. And every Tuesday night, Anne would drop me off at the gate of my bag. So I was just in time to finish dishing up the meals with the other sisters in the borders. But they've been a wonderful neighbourhood. If there was an accident, or one morning there was an accident about 4 o'clock in the morning, the milk truck had banged into the help, and Dr. Young was up there, not his dad, but he was in his pajamas. He was called out, he would always come in his pajamas to visit the people, but they were, yeah, we enjoyed them. So, thank you.
Well, by all means, come.
Hello, I'm Diana, and I'm Bert and Anne's niece. And basically, we came to Hamilton, my husband Shane and I, 2 young kids, nearly 20 years ago. And just wanted to say that Bert and Anne were wonderful to us when we first came here, and we would go over with our little children, and Anne would have toys out, and somebody said Anne was a great listener. We said that because she would treat you like you were the only mother that's ever had young children that cry, and she never gave advice. She would just listen and empathise, and they were wonderful. I used to drop in on my own quite a bit, and no, Jenny wouldn't be there, she'd be working, and I'd see Bert and we'd have a wonderful time, and she just had humour. Also, I thought they had this most amazing respect for each other, and they listened to each other, and they kind of like role models for me in terms of the relationship that they were. Yeah, Anne was just so special and open, and all the other words, but I've loved the time being close to them.
Thank you. And look, there'll be a chance for others to share some memories over a cup of tea or coffee in the hall shortly. Now, I think we're going to have the photo tribute. Hopefully, if the technology works. Let's just sit with our own particular memories and enjoy the photos of Anne and Anne.
Internet's down. The internet's down.
Just while they're sorting out the text, I just want to pay my respects to my mum. As many of you know, I play quite a lot of music and a number of instruments. The one they didn't really appreciate quite so much was a set of drum sets right beside the surgery door. Very hard to play the drums quietly.
We seem to have an issue with the internet. I think it wasn't James who said, talking about may the gods of technology be with us. Well, perhaps they are. Oh, yeah.
If this is close to this to me, it's fine.
Thank you, Francie, for putting that together. That was beautiful. Some gorgeous photographs. Let's just pause, continue a time of silence as I just lead us in some reflection. And then we will remain seated and we will sing the Son Lord's Prayer, Jesus' Prayer. How good it is to be reminded of the breadth and depth of Anne Young's life. The difficult recent memories can sometimes overshadow the reality of a long and rich and full life. And let's acknowledge all the good we saw in Anne and shared with her, the godness in Anne. Let's acknowledge that her death reminds us of others we have known and loved, and we remember them at this time. Let's remember the family, Jenny and Ian and Ash and Helen, Graham and Kay and Anna and Rob and Tom and Kat, Francie and Rob and James and Antonio. And all those who feel this loss the keenest. And let's think of ways we can support and uphold them now and in the future. And let's take a moment to think about what we might need to do for our being at this time. To grieve, to not be afraid or ashamed of our tears, to be what is needed most at this time. It was Paul who wrote, "There are truly three things that last forever: faith, hope, and love." And in that, let us pray the Jesus prayer in song. Our Father in heaven, holy be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as in heaven. Give us our daily bread, forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Do not put us to the test, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom and the glory are yours now and forever. So be it.
As many of you know, Dan was quite a writer of poetry, and we had some of his poems put together in a little, I'm going to hold it in case I cough. He had them put together in a wee book called Grandman's Standard. And I was thinking to myself, there must be a poem that he's written to Mum or about Mum or something. And yesterday I found it because I'm living in a house now that they bought over the road from my house, and there are folders of these and all sorts of papers and stuff. And before I read the poem, I just need to explain that the reference to Juvena is that's Latin for young, and that was the name of our little two-person frost-fly boat that we used to sail on the estuary and down into the bay, and often Dad and I would go down and try and break something in the open bay where the wind was nice and steady and fierce and we could get the boat planing. So you'll see that Juvena is mentioned here. So this poem is called Love, and this is what he wrote. I've actually got the amended version with little crossings out, words added and things. How great to wake each morning on the pillow these 16,000 days, with little hugs and small caresses, and sometimes all that skin can bear of hand and tongue, and breathing up to ecstasy, still embraced and intertwined. Where will ashes lie that loved you all these nights and mornings? Bones, it seems, must lie in rows in cemeteries with plaques and stones, but ashes could be in the garden where the cat's bones lie, apple tree, or on the changing tide above the cockle beds where Juvena planed in steady winds across the bay. So that's Athenry. And Mum and Dad asked that eventually the ashes be put together, and we need to decide where we're going to put them in the end. So Athenry was very important for us.
Thank you, Jen. Bertram was a gifted wordsmith, gifted in so many ways, as Medea was. Let's sing our final song, which is the song we had at Bertram's funeral too, which is Shirley Murray, Colin Gibson's song, Our Life Has Its Seasons. And it picks up, you'll see in the chorus, really the words of 1 Corinthians 13. So there's never a time to stop believing, there's never a time for hope to die, there's never a time to stop loving. These three things go on.
These three things go
Please remain standing for our commendation. But before I do, I found these beautiful lines from a prayer that comes out of the Reformed Jewish tradition that's often used before their Kaddish, their prayers of mourning. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Congratulations, Anne, for you have lived well and loved much. And in doing so, you have honored your Creator. But God, as first you gave Elizabeth Anne to us, so now we give her back to you. Farewell, Anne. We say farewell, but not to take our leave of deep, abiding memories to hold us as we grieve. Nothing is lost that you gave, nothing is wasted that you've done. Those treasures we carry forever, but your time with us. In the beginning, God made a light. In God's image, we came alive. In the unknowns after death, our hope is love will survive. Let the ground shelter your remains. May the land, sun, sea, and lake bring us all eternal peace to the future we now create. Farewell, Anne. We say farewell. May time heal our loss and pain. Farewell, we say farewell. Faith, hope, love, remain. And in the words of the Celtic prayer, given Anne's Scottish roots, my friends, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm on your face and the rain fall gentle on your fields. And until we meet again, may you be held in the palm of God's hand.
One job and I blew it.
Thank you for stepping into the. Well, none of us, most of us don't. You're probably the only one that knows. Good on you for doing it.
People might think stop recording there too.
Yes, you do.
James says, lovely. I saw the whole thing. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh,
That's James in New York.
Oh,
That's wonderful. It just popped up here. Thanks, James. Thanks, Tom. Bye. Oh, lovely that they were able to see it. Yeah, that's so nice. Made it work. We just got a message from James in New York saying thank you and see the whole thing. I'm sick of that. Oh, that was so good. And did a brilliant job.
that's fabulous.
Yeah. Yes.